Indicators, distractions, and pains, they will present themselves every single day, but you have a choice to struggle with it or not. And you can create it as an accelerant in the direction or trajectory.
Since 1981, Justin has been producing world-class Bordeaux-style wines from Paso Robles on California's Central Coast. As the pioneer of Paso, Justin wines are what put Paso Robles on the wine-making map. The Justin team believes that wine should be exceptional from every angle, which is why their team uses boutique winemaking practices like hand harvesting and hand sorting. With a rich history of accolades, Justin produces exceptional wines and is proud to be America's #1 luxury Cabernet. Whether you're the first-time wine drinker or a wine aficionado, Justin has a wine for every celebration and occasion. Visit justinwine.com and enter promo code Playbook20 for 20% off your order. Justin offers the perfect holiday gifts for clients, colleagues, friends, or family. Be sure to check them out at justinwine.com to receive 20% off your order for a limited time and use the promo code Playbook20.
We're going to dive right in. A word that you use very often and nobody articulates it better than you. It's a universal language everybody can benefit from. What does the word grit mean to you, John?
Grit. Grit is inspired by vision and purpose. Where are you going and why are you going there? It is fueled by optimism and belief, powered by faith and hope, driven by love, and includes a little bit of stubbornness, like you're not going to give up, a little fear of failure, a desire to prove oneself, and resilience to bounce back when you get knocked. So to me, grit means you just keep going, but the main driver of grit is love. If you don't love it, you'll never be great at it. And if you do love it, you won't quit. So people don't talk about love a lot of times with grit, but love causes you to keep going. And love loves his family. I know you love your wife, right? You're not going to quit on them. And that is what grit's all about, is loving.
Beautiful. Dave, what's coming through for you?
Yeah, it's the application of why. When I say that, it's understanding exactly what John says in a different terminology and vernacular of knowing what you want, both non-circumstantially with wisdom and faith, and also circumstantially, and knowing who you can help and who can help you with what you want, that allows you to have the ability to execute on that and know your purpose. Because if your purpose is greater than your pain, then you'll prioritize the activities each day that are either circumstantial or non-circumstantial, either non-negotiable or negotiable. And when you do that, knowing your what, your who, your how, and your now, and prioritizing accordingly, according to those circumstances each day, that time, value, and emotion changes, you now, instead of searching for that commitment, you're applying that inspiration. You are part of the infinite, the abundant, the unified system of God that we all belong to. And it allows us to shorten the distance of resistance that we create between us and God by seeking the wisdom of the day and having faith when the evidence of the day is non-existent or the evidence of the day is contrary to where we want to be. It allows us to not lack that commitment, because it won't be the mistakes that you make every day that stop you from getting to where you want to be or better. It'll be that lack of commitment. And if you apply your why, your purpose will always be greater than the pain, and you will live inspired in spirit, like the amazing Craig Siegel, the Eagle, and of course, the wisest sage, John Gordon. So blessed to share that grit with everybody.
Beautiful. Johnny also wrote a book called Relationship Grit, which he used some content at my wedding ceremony, and it was quite beautiful. And I like that. I think most people probably don't connect grit to a relationship, but you do it so beautifully, and it just goes to show that grit can be applied to really anything that's important to you.
You know, I spoke to the Commanders the other day before their game in Tampa.
It worked.
And we talked about team grit. We talked about connection and commitment. I knew this team was connected. They have a brotherhood. As a result of that brotherhood, they have a greater commitment to each other and for each other. So when adversity strikes, you're not running away from each other. You're running towards each other. Instead of fighting against each other, you're fighting for each other. And I know Dave with his wife Julie. I mean, they have an incredible relationship. They're fighting for each other, for their family. Craig, you and Alessia, same thing. You'd be fighting for each other for the rest of your life because you have this connection and commitment. So relationship grit, team grit happens from connection and commitment. We often look at grit and think, oh, I'm grinding, I'm working hard, but it's actually connection and commitment within the relationship that cause a team to be gritty. So you can have a few individual gritty people on a team, but if you don't have relationships, if you don't have connection, the team is not going to be very gritty when adversity hits, or at the end of the game when the game's on the line. How will they perform? Or a business when they're struggling and going through some adversity, how do they work through it together? You got to have team grit.
And I will tell you, Johnny G, I've been mentoring Austin Eckler for so many years, and Dan Quinn and yourself have changed the mindset, heart set, and the handset of that team.
Not me.
And what's interesting about relationships, a lot of people do when you talk about relationships, think about relativity of person to person. For me, there's a far greater expansive understanding of relationships. And when I read John's book, it expanded understanding three things: the relativity of everything, and especially the relativity of my relationships with circumstances and God, and the coordination between those two. But it also is, how do we associate with those relationships? And furthermore, understanding that just because something bleeds you doesn't mean it's not feeding you. And so if anyone's a parent or if anyone's married, at times children will bleed you. At times your wife will bleed you. But that is actually a form of feeding you within the context. And when you read the grit of relationships and you understand the relativity association, and of course, the idea of what feeds me, what inspires me, it's not at a surface level just because it seems to be, man, my wife or my kids are really sucking me dry today. It's actually a form of feeding, and it expands us into a better place, into a better person. And so understanding the depth of those relationships, John, you do a fantastic job of articulating that and inspiring people and elevating their awareness to what we're here for and how we can enjoy that human experience with the reconciliation of inspiration and spirit in God. So I appreciate you doing and helping out Austin Eckler and the Commanders make it to the next level.
Yeah, I don't think I did a whole lot. That's Dan Quinn. That's the culture. By the way, Dave, I messaged Austin and said, hey, I'm a good friend of Dave Meltzer's. I don't know if he got it or not. I don't think he knew that we were friends when I was speaking to the team, but
All right.
he was someone that I really liked and I've always liked. And you could tell he has great energy, great teammate, great guy for that team.
He is.
Great grit. Great grit.
Yeah.
And John, that's awesome that you spoke to him. People should be jonesing to have you before today's games because obviously it's working. What an honor that was for both you and the team. This is awesome. I have to ask you this. We're very delicate when it comes to some things that we talk about, but when it comes to spirituality and faith, no better person to have a conversation with than John. And before you jump today, John, I wanted to ask you, I know that God, Creator, that connection is primary for you in this life. For anybody listening right now, you've had so much experience with it and done such a good job of strengthening your connection. What is something that you do to consistently strengthen your connection with God?
Well, it's important to know that, whether we believe in God or not, God believes in us. And God created us, whether you believe in the Creator. Like, you didn't come here by accident, and this world is not an accident. And if you believe you're an accident, then guess what? There should be no meaning, there should be no purpose, and there should be no reason for your life. And guess what? There is a reason for your life, and you are here for a reason. And when you feel disconnected, you feel angry, you feel tired and powerless. And what you're really looking for is that connection with the Creator. And when you have that connection, you feel alive, you feel courageous, you feel confident, you feel powerful. And we've all had that connected. And even if we can't describe it or define it, we've had it. And we also know what it feels like to be disconnected. So we're seeking connection. God created us for connection. My word this year is dependent. I want to live with a dependence on God. This was never meant to be an independent relationship. In your independence, you're actually weak. powerless. You have so much energy, and you're dependent on reliance. A great power moves through you. It's why every addiction program believes in a higher power, because it knows you can't do it alone or by yourself. So, how do you stress? Through prayer. We were created for connection. Remember, created for connection. So when you're praying, you are connected to your creator. And through your prayer, Corinthians 6:17 says, he who is joined to the Lord is one spirit with him. You become one spirit, you and God, one spirit in prayer. And that's where healing takes place. That's where renewal takes place. That's where the transforming of your mind takes place. I want one analogy here. It's a great analogy. Cucumber, put it in pickle juice and pull it out real fast. Is that cucumber transformed? No. Well, many people who get baptized, they get submerged, then they come out, and that's it. They don't do anything else. And that's not meant to be your walk with God. There's meant to be a connected experience. It's meant to bathe in the pickle juice. The cucumber must bathe in the pickle juice. You're meant to bathe in the Holy Spirit. And as through prayer, surrender, trust, and prayer, connection, guess what? That cucumber, your soul, gets transformed and healed. Healed. That's the key. We all need healing. So many people, if they believe in God and believe in Jesus, they've been saved, but their soul still needs healing. I believe everyone knows that their soul needs healing. How do you do it? Through prayer and connection is the process of healing you, healing your soul, healing your mind and your body, transformation. That Prayer, 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 praise, repent, ask, yield, expect great things to happen, and receive all the blessings and abundance God wants.
Unbelievable.
Ah, man, if you want to join the John Gordon fan club, email me because I'm his biggest fan, david@dmeltzer.com. I just think about the day that I had to tell my mom I lost everything 18 years ago and lost her house, and literally told her, Mom, my mom's very religious. I don't believe in God. Why would he punish me? And my mom looked at me and smirked. At the moment I told her she had to move out of a home that I had bought her, the only reason I wanted to be rich, smirked and said, son, you believe in God, you just believe in the wrong God. And that journey set me to soak myself every day in that belief and that prayer. And what a great acronym in order to live our lives. Join us, man. The John Gordon fan club. I'm now my self-appointed leader of it. David@dmeltzer.com. Who does not love John Gordon? He will change your life. You got to listen to him every day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, brother.
Thank you,
Johnny,
brother. What an honor. Happy 200, guys. Happy 200.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Have a good rest of the day. We'll chat offline. Love you.
All right. Love you, brother.
Say hi to your wife for me.
Hey.
You love her more.
Yeah.
Officiating your wedding, Craig, was one of the great moments of my life. It truly is one of the greatest moments of my life. Just want you to know that. That's special.
Thank you so much.
Because God showed up.
Mine too.
God showed
and
up.
Mine too.
It was one of the great moments of the greatest moment of your life. But God showed up in an amazing way, and it was just such a spiritual experience.
Beautiful.
Love you guys.
Love you, man. Yeah,
This is awesome.
I thought the best man speech was the favorite moment of my life. The best man speech.
We're not done yet, Dave.
Yes,
we
we
got
are
one
not
of our
done.
other favorites coming on. There she is.
Hello, how are you both? So nice to see you both.
I was feeling good looking until you hopped on, putting me to shame.
I never feel good looking. I feel God looking.
I think you both are great looking, so don't worry about that. I'm sharing my view with all of you. So I'm sharing my view with all of you. I have this 360-degree view of the sea behind me. So there you go. Something pretty to look at. I see you've got the sea in your background there as well. So we're sharing this view.
And I have the river.
Dr. Leaf, where are you? All about water today. All about water today.
Where are you, Dr. Leaf?
I'm in Miami.
Very nice.
Very beautiful.
Yeah.
It's great to see you. And it's going to be even better when I get to hug you finally in person in New York City.
I know. I'm so excited. We'll be in your part of the world in a few weeks, and we're going to have dinner together. And we've spoken so many times over the years, and we have done so much work together, and yet we haven't ever physically met. So it's going to be wonderful. David, I hope I can meet you too physically soon.
I hope so. I just flew through Miami to St. Croix, so I should have stopped in, but
I'll be down in Fort Lauderdale for the Aspire tour. So let's make sure that we all get together
I think
in
so.
Miami.
Let's do that.
Beautiful.
Sounds amazing.
Dr. Lee, thank you for joining us from Milestone episode 200. It's not your first time on here. No introduction necessary. Let's just dive right in. I wanted to ask you one of the really cool things that you talk about. It's so helpful. How can one begin their own brain detox?
Well, that's a great place to start. So, well, first of all, congratulations to you both. 200 is a really amazing milestone. So I'm very proud of you both. And you give the world so much incredible information. And, you know, the more we help each other, as we know, the better we function. So our brain is very dependent on what we do with our mind. And so listening to podcasts like you guys and these lives and so on is great information that is healing to our brain. So in other words, the brain, when we talk about a brain detox, the only way you can detox your brain is by detoxing your mind, because your mind isn't your brain. They're two separate things. So the more you manage your mind, which means you're managing your thought life, that is how you then are detoxing the brain, because the brain simply does what the mind tells it to do. So our messy mind is kind of what we live in every day. That's how we do life. And it's totally okay, but it needs to be managed. And so we have a wise mind, which is the depths of our unconscious, our spiritual part of us, the connection to the source of wisdom, whatever you want to call it. But we have to consciously and deliberately and intentionally train ourselves to tune into this level of wisdom that's in all of us. And then from there, we can then kind of guide our messy mind, because if we don't do that, the messy mind puts a lot of messy energy into the brain. So what that means is that, like our conversation now, these are words, and that eventually converts into light waves and energy and all this kind of stuff. And that goes into the brain. The mind literally grabs it, puts it in the brain, and it becomes an energy wave through the brain that stimulates proteins to form. And so what we're saying is growing into the brain and also into the body. So it's mind, brain, body network. So like you can see the sea behind me and the sky, that could be your mind, and the clouds are your thoughts. So our conversation first becomes processed through the sky into clouds and then put into the physical brain, if that makes sense. Now, the point I'm making is that the reason we need detoxes is because whether we like it or not, this process is happening all day long. It's basically neuroplasticity, the mind changing the brain and body. So if you don't direct that process, then you're still changing, but in the wrong direction. So a detox, a brain detox, is literally you managing your mind and standing back and observing, okay, this is how I'm showing up. These are the patterns of my life. I've got here because of what my mind is doing to my brain and body, and capturing those patterns and then making a decision to change them, to reconceptualize them. And in doing that, you use your messy mind to tune into your wise mind, and you rewire the networks of your mind, brain, body connection, which changes how you function in life. There we go. A whole bunch of science in one sentence.
It's beautiful. And Craig, the expansion on that I've been studying recently, understanding the mind to the brain is like, in comparatively, when we start to facilitate it to the human experience, one in which is the body that we've received, is the relationship of, just like the mind to the brain is like time to your clock or your calendar. And so in order to understand the human experience within the context of this infinite, unlimited journey, we take the mind to the brain, and then we take the time to the clock. And then we're able to experience human nature in its essence, and where longevity is taking the forefront of so many different businesses, so many different lives today, within the context of the mind and the brain, becomes not just longevity, living a long time, but it's living well for longer. And it's a different way of looking within the context of the mind to the brain and time to the clock or the calendar. And so you have inspired me, Doctor, to facilitate where my expertise and experience lies with, is in from time to the clock. And you've elevated my understanding of the analogous relationship of the mind to the brain, and how to facilitate the spiritual journey with the human experience, utilizing time in order to effectuate productivity, accessibility, and gratitude in that journey. So I just wanted to, on the 200th episode, thank you so much. I had John Gordon, who inspires me, but that your science has helped facilitate my ability to impact others in order to live well.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing. I love what you said there about the time to the clock. That's so really important. I mean, that's a fantastic way of explaining it. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dave, do we pick the right guest for tonight or what? This is awesome.
Well, it was
Dr.
obvious, right?
Yeah.
Luckily, they picked us. They picked us, Greg. Please give it credit where it's due. We didn't pick them. They picked us. We're blessed.
This show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them, because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place and holding ourselves back. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist anytime for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/playbook today to get a 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/playbook. Imagine starting a small business, your first customer, first hire, first real paycheck. But everything isn't just exciting, it's scary. That's where JustWorks come in, the all-in-one platform that supports small business growth. Access seamless tools that help with benefits, payroll, HR, and compliance with transparent pricing. It's time to make payroll painless. Run payroll in 90 seconds or less and automate payments so you can set it and forget it. Did you know in 2023 alone, they processed over 25.6 billion in trusted payroll customers? Don't worry about the paperwork piling up either. They take care of payroll tax documents and reporting to help you stay compliant. Visit justworks.com/podcast to join the thousands of small businesses that trust JustWorks to take care of payroll, benefits, compliance, and more. That's justworks.com/podcast.
Dr. Leaf, I wanted to ask you, I saw you post, your posts are amazing, by the way. I encourage
Thank
everybody
you.
to follow you if they're not already. And you wrote this, and I thought it was so profound. I'd love to unpack it. The ability to let people be wrong about you.
Oh, yeah. We've got so much coming at us every day, and it comes into the mind-brain body connection. So here's a classic example of detoxing. What people think about you, you can't do anything about getting in their head. We all know that. But even though we know that, we still try and convince that person that they're wrong about us. Or something. We try and, because it's so, hey, that's just not the truth, and we don't know how to deal with that. And in the attempt to try and change another person's perception of you, you can become almost destructive to yourself and to that relationship. So it's much better for you to actually not, first of all, whatever they're saying about you, it's really important, or whatever they're thinking, or whatever is coming at you, when they're wrong about you, you know they're wrong about you. You don't know why they think that. And if you can stand back and first of all protect yourself from letting that become wired in a way that there's a lot of salience attached to it. In other words, everything that comes into you is going to go into this network. But you do have the ability, when you are very spiritually tuned in, very self-regulated, to see this is making me feel messy, and I can either put this in my brain in this messy way, or I can stop for a moment, stand back, observe, tune into my wisdom, because I know exactly what the truth is inside of me. We've got everything inside of us. What we are not really training ourselves to do enough, and the three of us are trying to help people do that, is tune into this wisdom. So when you stand back and observe and say, okay, I don't want that inside me. It does upset me. I acknowledge it, frustrates me, it irritates me, say all those things. You can't deny that. But I don't want to wire that in as part of who I am, because then I'm going to become reactive. I'm going to create a toxic situation in a network. It's going to become physically part of my structure. It's going to affect the time to the clock to the time, the mind-brain body connection. It's going to affect how we show up. So therefore, the first thing is to stand back, observe, and make sure you don't wire it in. Then replace that with the thought of, okay, this is happening. It makes me feel like this. Why they're doing that, I'm not sure. It could be something that's going on in their life. It could be something I've done, or whatever. So you get a couple of, observe your reactions. emotions, behaviors, perspectives, etc. Reflect on those and think, okay, I think it could be this, that, I'm not quite sure why, but just get a bit of why going on. Then maybe write down a few points of, how this is all making you feel and these why answers that you had. And then go into a reconceptualization. So, okay, so this is happening. This is how it's making me feel. This stuff I've just done. But I want to wire in a healthy version. I want to be able to say, this is not who I am. I know. I don't know how to convince this person. Do I even need to convince this person? What is the impact of trying to convince them? Do I need someone else? Reconceptualize, explore, and then end that with, okay, what is my action that I can do right in this moment so that I don't explode, that I don't build this into my brain, mind-body network, that I don't affect a work environment or a relationship even more, and I keep myself in a place of peace and calm. Because if I do that and I show up like that in the moment, that person will automatically think, wow, without even realizing it, they are not being reactive, being responsive. Doesn't mean that you have to be walked on, doesn't mean that you don't need a boundary in place, but it means you don't take that mess in you and produce a messy response. You acknowledge it all, and you can then get into a wise place where your response may be, okay, I see that with me, I don't totally agree, but that's okay. Totally, our relationship is important. I'm going to step out of this for a moment and let's come back to whatever works in that moment.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's so aligned with the minutes and moments strategy, and the word acknowledgement is so important that I always say, let's acknowledge what resonates with us. And a lot of people misunderstand this intuitive thought of resonance, and it's not just what you agree with most that we want to resonate with. When we hear great quotes like "I'm either humble or I'm about to be," that might inspire us, and we feel like, oh, I got to remember that and keep that within me. But it's also when others believe something that we don't believe to be true, that we strongly disagree with that. And we want to use this process that Dr. Leaf is talking about in order to facilitate understanding it. One of my aunts told my wife, David only helps rich people. I think he needs to help everybody. And I strongly disagree with that. And immediately I had a need to be offended. But I also wish it was true in some respects, because if I only help rich people pay way better for helping them than poor people. But that's not my mission. And so I acknowledged it, and I started to realize, what am I doing that would allow my aunt, who I'm close with, my godmother, to have this perception? Could it be she only has certain snapshots of my experiences, of my content, of what I'm doing, and she has facilitated a new opinion and trying. But in the end, what I acknowledged and I let help me get to where I want to be was, she is expressing what I'm actually trying to do, meaning she's reminding me that you're here to help everyone and to create abundance. And I turned something that was a need or an interference to be offended into a very positive thing about someone loves me enough to remind me of what my mission is, and to elevate my awareness that I am helping everybody, and make sure that as attractive as it is to help rich people, because rich people pay better for helping them, that stay true to yourself, regardless of the reminders that people who love you will give you. And when I say love you, remember, if somebody hates you, they love you enough to care. They would not attack you if they didn't care enough about you. If they weren't aware of you or really didn't give a shit what you were doing, trust me, it would be impossible for them to hate you. In fact, when my girls I have 4 kids, but the girls get into an argument, I was like, thank you guys so much. And they're like, what? I said, thank you for reminding me how much you love each other. Because you guys, you literally are attacking each other over the dumbest thing. This must be true love, that you're bugged by it so much that you're going to take your time and energy to attack each other. Thank you. I'm doing my job because you love each other so much. But anyway, Craig, I'll hand it back off.
I love that. If I may say, that was such, if I may say, you literally, that example just highlighted the process that I was just describing. And that process I just was describing was a very scientific process for how you regulate your mind. It's like magical to go through those phases that you did, where you acknowledged, and then you did a little bit of reflection, and then you did a little bit of what else did this bring up, and then you did great reconceptualizations, which was your, hey, they actually love each other enough to be able to argue, and that's amazing. And then your action was to say thank you to your kids. Now that process is a system that every single person can learn, and I call it the neurocycle. I've done 40 years of research on it. And it is basically changing your neurophysiology as you speak. It's changing everything down to your heart, your hormones, down to your DNA, and it's giving you the ability to be empowered to manage your mind. And so it's teaching you to tap into your spiritual. So it's doing spiritual stuff, it's doing physical stuff, and it's also doing emotional, but it's also making you a better person and enabling you to then live life in a way that touches others, which is deep human, you know, as you were talking with John Gordon about, who's also a friend, that deep connection is vital for humans. We cannot live without it. So sorry, I just wanted to emphasize that. So good science there.
Yeah, no, that was beautiful. And Dave, I love the paradigm shift there. Arguing and you hate someone that much, it really means you care. I know we're a little bit over time. I wanted to land the plane with one final nugget. You guys both have an extra 2 minutes?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Dr. Lee, you talk about changing the narrative on a distraction and how some distractions can actually be very healthy and productive. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely, such a good question. So when we are very stimulated by an event of something negative or positive, we very often need to have a point of space, create space where we can then get into the wise mind. We can get into what I call the non-conscious mind. People refer to as the spiritual mind, whatever. Okay, so it's scientifically we call it the non-conscious, where our wisdom is for how to handle that situation. In a highly charged moment, you get stuck in the messy mind, and you don't get charged. You just don't listen to. It's like a toddler going crazy. They don't listen to the parent, sort of thing. So, to a temporary distraction, a distraction is, when it's used well, helps to create that space that we need. So it may be that you just need to, something happens, and before you try and resolve it, you just maybe need to go for that walk, or grab that fiction book or non-fiction book and read it, or do whatever it is that really is something you actually enjoy and you know will get your mind off that and onto something else. It doesn't mean that you leave it. It means that it creates the space for you to get out of the messy cycle that is a messy mind, messy neurophysiology, calm that down, get into the wisdom, and come back and deal with that. It's always important to come back and deal with that, and to balance how you use distractions. So a temporary distraction is good unless a person starts using them as a pattern. So if you get into the habit, and that happened with a lot of my patients, where that really got stuck in addictions, was when the temporary distraction became a mode of operandi. So it became the habit, and that's where you've got to just make sure that doesn't happen. Quick, simple.
So beautiful. The wisdom is flowing in the faith as well today, which shortens this distance of resistance that we create in our lives. And for me, these are just indicators. Distractions are indicators to give a meaning aligned with where we want to be or better. And that's why they can be a clue, but they also can be a pattern, as Dr. Leaf suggests. So utilize those distractions as an indicator that you have a better place to be, a better situation to be in, something to learn, so that that purpose can be greater than, of course, that distraction, struggle, or pain. You have no choice of indicators in your life. You have no choice. Indicators, distractions, and pains, they will present themselves every single day, but you have a choice to struggle with it or not. And you can create it as an accelerant in the direction or trajectory. I call it a divine direction, and then making that detour, that distraction, a divine distraction, a divine detour, in order to allow for the divine time for us to utilize in that divine direction. What a great 200th episode. I can't wait for the 400th episode. I know I'm consistent, and the eagle is flying high above us, bringing the best out of us. Thank you, Dr. Leaf, and thank you, Craig.
Thank you both. Been an amazing honor to be with you again. It's so great chatting again.
Dr. Leaf, you're the best.